He's like, yeah, I just don't have them. And I was like, well, did you lose them? Like, are they on a piece of paper in the van or something? He's like, no, I never wrote any words. And we'd been touring on these songs for like months, and none of us knew.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was the Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Link 80 was a band from the Bay Area. The name came from the Interstate Highway Route 80, or I-80, which they used to use to get to the drummer's garage for band practices and connected the band members' homes. The members of the band lived in Oakland, Berkeley, and Richmond. Fun fact, I also named my animation company Drive 80 after Route 80 as well. So I don't know if subconsciously I remembered that Link 80 did the same thing, but I definitely did not rip the idea off from them. I just happened to be on Route 8. All right, whatever, fuck it. Anyway, far more punk than ska, and with an energy and a sense of immediacy lacking in pop-oriented ska bands, Link 80 was able to avoid the cliches of ska punk categorized by their peers. Characterized by their peers, not categorized, whatever. As Asian Man Records describes them, they are an energetic blend of ska, punk rock, and hardcore. Thank you, Wikipedia, for that lovely write-up, except for the Drive 80 part. My old band Lanemeyer met these dudes on our last tour, and I thought they were like the nicest guys. And I also thought that Adam Davis, who was their guitarist, would have some great stories from back then. And I was 1,000% correct in thinking this because, you'll hear in this interview. I sent him a Facebook message to see if he'd like to chat. He replied, sure, ! And this is what we talk about. Being the stage manager for the Plea for Peace tour, how it would be weird now to be on tour and just randomly ask people to stay in their houses, what it was like joining the band, the first singer passing away at a young age, going through van after van, still being straight edge, Days of Thunder, quitting the band and then getting back in the band, turning from Link 80 into Dessa, his band Narboots, being a punk rock dad, some stories about New Jersey, teaching Bigwig about the Tiger Bomb on your balls trick, talking about the Alkaline Trio Shit in the Box fiasco, getting a shitty proposal from Victory Records, and a ton more. Now, before we begin, my old band Lanemeyer has our first EP, Stories for the Big Screen, available on vinyl. The record was put out by I Surrender Records. It's green vinyl and has an etching of God, I Miss You, God, I Miss This Place on one side, and we're doing a Black Friday sale, and here are the details. You get 20% off with promo code SURRENDER2018. That's SURRENDER 2018. Must be entered at checkout to receive the discount. It's valid on the entire store, so you can get other records with that discount as well. It's active from 11:22 at 12 a.m. to 11:26 at 11:59 p.m. This covers Thanksgiving, Black Friday, the weekend, and Cyber Monday. Just go to thiswasthescene.com and scroll down until you see the Lanemeyer CD artwork and just click on that. It'll take you right to the store. This week's episode is sponsored by nobody. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can donate as little as $1 a month through Patreon by going to thiswasthescene.com and clicking on the button on the top of the page that says bonus, or click here for bonus material. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus materials that regular podcast subscribers do not, or you can just do a one-time donation if you want to by clicking the donate button, or you don't have to donate shit. I'm going to attempt to not have sponsors anymore and just use Patreon to keep this thing alive. But I'll see how that goes. So yeah, thanks for anyone who has donated and who is a Patreon. You guys fucking rock. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. Mr. Adam Davis, thank you for joining me on this Friday.
Hello. Yes, hi.
So I met Adam 2 times on the road in 2000. In 2000, we went on our final tour. We played with Link 80. The first time we met you guys was in Toronto at a show, and then we ended up meeting up with you guys again in Denver, Colorado a couple weeks later.
So the Toronto show, that's with Lawrence Arms.
Yep, both of them were. We were on tour with Lawrence Arms. That was our last tour. And
was the Denver one the one that also had Wonder Years on it?
Yeah, because Wonder Years met up with us in Chicago at, like, our first show was with them where they jumped on the road with us for, I think, a week or two. It was at the Fireside in Chicago. Right. And so Lawrence Arms, they drove up to Jersey, and we went for it was scheduled for 2 months, but we ended up stopping about a month and a half.
Okay.
And the Toronto show with you guys was about, I think, a week in. It was like within that week we went up there when we met with you guys, because you guys had just played that Asian Man. You guys went on
the first Plea for Peace tour?
Yeah,
maybe?
You guys you went on tour with all of them, and that's when you guys, and Lawrence Arms was on that tour, I believe, as well, and you guys hooked up with them. Did you ever
Can
play?
Yeah,
please.
So for the Plea for Peace tour, Mike hired me to be basically like the stage manager for that tour. He paid me $10 a day. I slept on the front bench of the bus, so I didn't get a bunk or anything. I had to get up, load everybody's gear in. So that was like all of Alkaline Trio, all of Blue Meanies. I think I had Lawrence Arms guitars, maybe. Basically, I think we were using all the same back line.
Okay.
So I think I had to load in all the amps, all the drums, the banners, had to hang the banners, make sure everybody's guitars were all set up. And then I had to play my own set and then like get people on and off $10 a day.
Holy shit.
And then towards the end of the tour, Mike came up to me and he's like, I just think you're doing a bad job. Why am I paying you? And I got so mad because he was paying me $10 a day. Wait, and then I got a parking ticket or something when I got home.
Uh-huh.
And it like wiped out all the money that I'd made.
That's so fucked. Holy shit. So he was legit, like, he legit said that to you being serious? Like, wow, you're doing a shitty job?
Yeah, I was pretty burnt towards the end. Like, cause I mean, if you can imagine, I was doing the job of like several people.
Yeah. And
playing my own show and not getting really any sleep. Cause like anytime the bus would hit a hard turn, I'd fall off the bench. And I'm giant. So if nobody's ever met me, I'm 6'5".
Yeah, Adam's huge.
I'm gigantic. And like we were filthy too. Like, cause we were doing the whole thing of like Link 80 was like, okay, we're gonna wear all black every single show.
Yep.
And so we had like, a black t-shirt and black Dickies, and like I would have to lay out my clothes when we get to the next show, and then after a while the salt from my sweat started to like cake up in the clothing, and so it would leave these big kind of like white gradients like where the sweat had been, and so then I was having to like try to rinse them out in the sink and then lay them out in the hot sun wherever I could find a patch of hot sun where my clothes weren't going to get filthy.
Oh my god, those shows were huge though, weren't they?
Those are pretty good shows.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is also a lot of the places we were playing, we were already playing like pretty decent sized rooms.
Oh, okay.
So it felt kind of ridiculous. Like Alkaline Trio was like totally on their way up. They were becoming gigantic. Yeah. And they were also main support. And so Blue Meanies had just signed to a major, I think, MCA or something, RCA. They were on a major label. I can't remember which one, but they had gotten like a stupid amount of money. And so they had an RV and new gear.
Wow.
And they were also like, we should headline because we have a new album out and we're the most established band. And I was like, I don't know, guys. Alkaline Trio's got the draw. Like everybody's here to see them. They're the hot new thing.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of rooms that we would play. Like we played Chain Reaction on that tour down in Anaheim.
Yep.
And which is a room that Link 80 would headline, which was kind of odd. But anyways.
Well, it was on your coast, I mean, that was...
Right. I mean, but like, even like, I mean, I think like maybe the biggest place we played on that tour was the Metro in Chicago.
Yeah.
But also in Chicago, we would play the Fireside regularly. We played it 7 times in 1 year. People thought we were locals at one point. Because, okay, here's another thing. We would get up on stage. I don't know if you guys did this, but we'd get up and be like, hey, we need a place to stay tonight. And somebody would invariably put us up, except in Chicago. And we were like, what the fuck? Why can't we get a place to stay in Chicago? And it turned out I talked to somebody and I was like, hey, how come nobody ever puts us up here? And they're like, aren't you guys from here? We thought you were joking. So they all just thought we were locals because we played so much.
That's hilarious.
So anyhow, I mean, we could do well in Chicago too, but like, I mean, yeah, I mean, the Metro is like a gigantic, place.
Yeah, we never got to play there. That place looked huge. And any DVD.
Hey, there's still time. There's still time. You can still do it.
Fuck that. Actually, no, you're right. You're right. I always tell the people that if you really want to do something, you can. I don't have that passion. I mean, we just played a show like recently. We got together and played it, and it was awesome. But I mean, nowadays, you're married. You've got 2 boys.
Yes.
And which is actually really funny because I looked at the Facebook message that I sent you. If you go back, it goes back to 2014 when I was asking you, because you're a designer. And there's this conversation where I'm asking you if you'd want to design for the animations that I'm doing for my company.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait till we have to wait till my kid gets into like preschool or where preschool, and then you'd be
and now they're both graduated from preschool. I just dropped them off at school. One's in kindergarten, the other one's in 2nd grade.
That's crazy.
So that shows how fast time goes by.
Yeah, I mean your perspective on life is so different from mine because I'm I'm not married anymore and I don't have any kids. So like even in that stage, and I'm 39, where I can't imagine being on the road like we used to be.
Oh fuck no. And we couldn't even do it the way we did it because when we did it, we were little kids. Yeah. So like staying in somebody's house, like if a high school kid puts you up, it's not weird. If a high school kid put me up in their house now, it'd be super weird.
Oh fuck yeah.
So I currently have a super weird band called Narboots, and we've been playing for almost 10 years. And we started as like kind of a weird punk thing, like a 3-piece punk band. And then our bass player got kind of tired of doing it, so he stopped showing up really.
Okay.
But then we kept going, and this kid who had posted videos of himself playing all these like ska punk songs on bass on YouTube, including a Link 80 song, he became friends with us. And I was like stoked because I'd like randomly found this kid like just like being bored at my office job, Googling Link 80. And I found this kid. It turns out he lives like just a couple miles away. So he actually played a couple Narboots shows when our bass player bailed.
Okay.
And he was like 16, and he's a total ripper bass player. But then we were like, well, we need to practice. And he's like, why don't you guys just come by the house that my band practices at? So Aaron's 42. I'm 41 now. I think we were in our like mid 30s at this point. We show up at the guitar player in his band's house, his mom's house. And his mom comes home from work, sees us in the garage with these little kids, and she just like flipped out, like understandably.
Oh yeah.
And I like asked this kid, I was like, dude, do you want me to? I mean, she was like my age, and I was like, dude, do you want me to go like talk to her? And she's like, no, you guys should just bail.
Oh my
I was
god.
like, okay. So we just bailed. But, like, I mean, can you imagine doing that on a regular basis? Like,
oh fuck no.
The last tour I did in 2006, it started to feel sketchy because, at that point I was 27, 28, I think. Bad math.
Yeah.
But, I mean, anytime we would stay at like a kid's house, it just felt like super awkward.
Yeah. So like I want to do that as much. So I want to kind of go back. I first heard of you guys, and this is when you weren't in the band, but this is when there was like Cinema Beer Nuts or something came out on Hopeless, and the Verbal Kint video was on there, and so that's how I heard of Link 80. And then Asian Man was always like a popular label back then too. So that's how I heard you guys. But you came into the band later. But I want to talk about for your perspective of like what of the band up to the point where you came in, but go back to the very beginning, not the very beginning, but like I always start every episode off like this, but like what in general got you just into music, and then what progressed that to punk rock?
Sure. So I just remember like I was already kind of like gravitating towards like angry music, like Metallica, that sort of stuff, like going through my brother's like tapes and CDs at home. And then one day, so I went to a church dance and came home and put on Headbangers Ball because it was like past midnight at that point. And I saw the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit for the first time.
Yeah.
And it like hit me like a lightning bolt. Like I was like half asleep and I like shot awake, just like totally amazed by this thing and like trying to like burn it into my brain what it was, because I was like, this is, on in the middle of the night. Nobody's ever going to hear this again. I need to remember what this is. And then like a week later, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
It was like the biggest thing ever. Started growing out my hair and wanted to learn how to play guitar, and that was it. And then I started a little band in high school that was like pretty directionless and just like an amalgamation of all the stuff I was listening to. So it just sounded like garbage. But there was this other band that was like the band that was like the older kids. They were called Flat Planet. They're actually on Misfits of Ska too.
Okay.
This really like kind of throwaway song that they had called Mr. Good Buddy. I shouldn't call it a throwaway song, but it wasn't like it wasn't like indicative of what they really sounded like.
Okay.
It was actually, so the guy that's actually in Narboots with me now was the drummer in that band.
Oh, shit.
And he that was the song that he sang on. So he would get up and one of the saxophone players would sit down and play drums. And funny thing about Aaron, he's a phenomenal drummer, super good at drums, hates playing drums. So there's that. So then Flat Planet's guitar player went away to college, and so they hit me up and were like, would you be into playing guitar? And two of my best friends, the sax players, Seth and Jeff, they were already in the band. So I was like, hell yeah, it'd be great to be in a band with those guys. So I barely could play ska, but I like figured it out. I sat down with their current guitar player, Mike, and like worked it out. And I played about maybe a dozen shows. And then that band, then Aaron, the drummer, called it quits. He didn't want to do it anymore.
And now this is all in the Bay Area, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But in the time that we played at Cocodrie up in San Francisco, Club Cocodrie, which was kind of in the area where all the strip clubs are.
Okay. Perfect.
And yeah, it was this weird place. But they would have these punk shows at Club Cocodrie, and so we played with Link 80. And I'd heard a little bit about them. I knew that they were super young. And so we played, and we had a great set, I thought. And then Link 80 played, and the place went bananas. Like, it was like nothing I'd ever heard before.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away that these like super young kids were playing this like super aggressive music that was still ska, but was, also hardcore and also like really fast punk. I think Joey was like 14 or 15 at the time, the drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were just going super hard. The place, like we had like a circle pit when we were playing, and it was cool. Like, it was next level when they were playing. Like, people were losing their minds. So I was like, right on. So these guys were on my radar. And then we played a show with them down in Gilroy, where we were from. And the show wasn't very good, but I remember that all those guys rolled out looking super thuggish. They all rolled out with their girlfriends, who were all dolled up. I remember Joey drinking a 40 on stage, like during their set, and getting kicked out afterwards. I remember talking to Nick a little bit during the show. So fast forward a couple months, a couple of members of Flat Planet have bailed. So we're out flyering, looking for a new rhythm section. I pick up a copy of BAM Magazine, which is the local music rag, like the free music rag. And in the back, there's like classifieds. And so I'm looking through those, and I find this classified for this. It doesn't say what the band is, but it says Scotalites meets Black Flag, really young, super ambitious, looking to tour, looking for a guitar player and horn players. And I'm out flyering with our saxophone player at the time. So I'm like, dude, this is Link 80. This has to be Link 80. Like, let's call him. Let's go audition. And so I called, and I kept getting voicemail. I think Nick was out of town. And then finally he called me back, and he's like, yeah, sure. Just, come on this day, drive up to my house while I practice, learn as many of the songs as you can. So I got together with Seth, learned a bunch of the songs, and then rolled up there. And Nick told us to get there super early. Like, I think maybe like 9 or 10 in the morning, because I thought we were doing like a morning practice. Okay. Practice wasn't until like the afternoon. He just wanted to hang out. Uh-huh. So I got there and just hung out with Nick for like hours. And he was like super, super charismatic and super fun to hang around. And then, you know, at a certain point, dudes started rolling in. Oh, I should also back up.
Yeah.
So at one of the other Cocodrie shows that I went to just to see Link 80 again, and this was when I was talking to them about auditioning, I went and saw them, and they were playing with a band called The Hoods, which are a hardcore band from Sacramento. And I didn't really know shit about hardcore at the time. So Link 80 used to cover Set It Off by Madball.
Okay.
And when they would do that, like whoever was into it would like grab a mic and get on stage and like do the vocals. So Mikey Hood got up on stage and grabbed one of the mics and is doing the vocals. And I'm up front, big tall guy. And he like stage dives on me and like lands on my head. And so I like swat him in the ribs like with a fist. And he spins around on me and just clocks me in the face with the microphone. And I'm like totally stunned, just like, and he's like starts trying to take apart one of the mic stands to like beat me to death with it.
Jesus.
And I'm like, oh shit. And then somebody in the audience like sucker punches me in the side of the head. And I'm like, oh, I gotta fucking just bail. Like I'm gonna get killed. So I run out of the club. I'm like halfway down the block. I look back. The whole club is spilling out behind me to like come kill me.
Holy shit.
I run down like another block. I start trying to like run inside of like an office or something. And then at that point, like the security kind of has it under control. And like Nick is the first one out, like behind me. Like he's as closer to me than anybody else. And he's just fucking laughing his ass off. He thinks it's the funniest shit. And he just hugs me and he's like, it's cool. Like he like checks out my face. Like I'm like bleeding a little bit from my eyebrow. And he's like, it's cool. I'm going to go fucking figure it out. That was funny as fuck. He runs back up to the club. And I just eventually gather my other friend that was there and we bail. So fast forward back to when we're going to have this practice. Half the band hates my ass at this point. Because all they know is that I'm this dude that picked a fight with one of their friends.
Oh, man.
And so wait, I have to overcome that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you explained the timeline there. Okay, keep going. So, but you were friends. But you were friends with Nick prior to that, or he just saw you and he was like,
oh, I mean, we'd met at the shows that Flat Planet had played with Link 80, especially the Gilroy one. We hung out a fair amount.
All right.
And like he was the most personable of everybody in the band.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was just like, I don't know, him and then Joey were like definitely the easiest dudes to get along with.
Okay. So you show up to practice, and then these guys.
So I show up to
remember
practice.
You.
Half the dudes already just are like, nope, fuck this guy.
And this is like, so half the dudes like that was Adam and Aaron and Steven or Steve, right? Were they?
Steve wasn't in the band yet, so it was. I think on that show, like at that point in the lineup, I think maybe Metal Matt was playing second trumpet.
Yep.
I think there might have been another dude playing trombone that I think Brian, maybe I met him like once. But so I brought along Seth also, who ended up playing sax on Killing Katie.
Okay.
So we all met up. We played through the set. It was cool. I feel like I won pretty much everybody over during that. Like Adam Pereira was still a little bit like on the fence about me. But then they were getting ready to leave for a tour, and it was going to be Matt's last tour. Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, you chill at home. We're going to take Seth on this tour. And then when Matt goes off to college, you'll jump in.
Okay, so that was the reason that, because Matt was the original guitarist.
Right.
Okay,
right.
Now, so because he's in the video.
I say of all the dudes, like, so we did the reunion recently.
Yeah.
For Asian Man 20. Mm-hmm. I felt like Matt and I got along better than anybody. Like, which is so funny because Matt and I never got to be in the band together.
No shit.
We played 2 shows together, like right when we were transitioning, and then he actually did a tour with us, just like tour managing.
Oh wow! Like
way later. But like we totally get along. It's really funny.
That's awesome.
Like we're 2 peas in a pod.
So what was so just real quick, like as this is all going on though, like the scene around you, like there, like what were your thoughts on it in San Francisco or the Bay Area? I
mean, it was weird because down in Gilroy, all the like kind of new metal type bands were getting really big.
And this was like what year? 96? 96, like 97?
96, 97, 98.
Okay.
So we had a band in Gilroy called Salmon. Stupidest fucking name. But they were like the big draw down there. And so like they played a show and they had the Deftones come play.
Oh shit.
And
there's like around the bird Deftones, or this is like
no, this is pre-adrenaline Deftones.
Adrenaline.
Pre-major label Deftones.
Okay.
So
Jesus.
Salmon plays, like 300 people are at the show. Salmon finishes, Deftones start to set up, everyone leaves except for like 20 people. So then Deftones play to like an empty room and like completely destroy. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're super aggressive, like way more tightly wound than they ever were like once they started putting out albums. Like the 20 kids that are there all just beat the shit out of each other. Like it's the most, like one of the most violent shows I've ever been at.
That's awesome.
And we're all just like totally sold. We're all like, this is the best band ever.
Yeah.
And then they came back like maybe 6 months later and the place was packed.
Yeah.
And then from there on, they just like got bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And they never
But
stopped.
so like that was what was big down in Gilroy. Like,
okay.
This sort of stuff. Like Papa Roach would play down there. A bunch of other like weird bands. There's this band called Tribal Disco Noise that I thought was amazing. And I went back recently and like looked at some of their stuff and it's fucking terrible. But at the time it was amazing. So that was what was happening down there. Up here in the Bay, which I didn't really make it up here that much. Like hardcore was really big. So Link 80 fit right in with that. They barely played with ska bands.
Was it like
almost always hardcore bands?
Was it like was it a scene where, you know, when you'd go there, they were very welcoming of?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
It was a very like, I mean, at least it didn't feel that way to me. It felt very cliquey and kind of elitist.
Okay.
And that's just maybe my perception of it because I was like the yokel coming from the sticks, but like it felt really not unifying at all. It felt really aggro.
Okay.
And that kind of softened over the years. But yeah, when I first got up here, it felt really rigid and militant.
So when you joined, so you got into Link 80, and then had they already been touring prior to this?
Yeah, they'd been touring. I think they did 3 or 4 tours before I joined.
Okay, and that's when they were on Asian Man too, because their first record's on Asian Man, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, I think they did a couple tours pre-Asian Man, I want to say.
Okay. How did Mike Park actually find them?
Link 80 played with Skank and Pickle, and they must have been super young at the time, and I think Nick had probably just joined. And I mean, honestly, it wasn't until Nick joined the band that really anything happened, and understandably so, because if you listen to like the very, very like pre 17 Reasons demos, the band's pretty terrible.
Okay.
And Matt, the original guitar player, while he has like a cool aesthetic for his guitar playing, isn't the dopest guitar player, and he also can like not find the beat when he sings. So every time he would sing something, he would sing it different. I don't think he would mind me saying that. Like it's just how it was.
Okay.
He eventually worked it out a little bit better, but it was pretty rough. So I feel like once Nick joined, he was kind of the cohesive thing that everybody could like get behind. And he was just like so charismatic and so looked the part of a front person.
Yeah,
really,
he had that aura, definitely, from what I could
Definitely.
see. Yeah, from videos or like just any images or whatever. He just looked like he would be that guy that would just be like, "Fuck yeah!" Like,
yeah. I mean, you just totally wanted to like rally behind him. Like he was like, he was it. Like it was, you know, really, really inspiring to watch him perform. And the rest of the band would just kind of like, you know, do their thing behind him. I mean, I think the second part of that equation was that Joey became like this super ripper drummer.
yeah,
Which, you know, you're only as good as your drummer, I feel like. And he was playing super fast, super hard. He I remember at one point he had a Kevlar head on his snare drum because he had hit his snare drum so hard that we were afraid he was just going to pop it in the middle of the show. So we just got him this indestructible Kevlar snare head, like a marching band snare head. So there was just no way he was going to break it.
Jesus Christ.
Just super hard on his drums.
So when you started playing shows with them, I mean, they already had an established following. So what was it like to just get up on stage? Like, was your first show just fucking nuts?
Yeah, it was our first show. The first show I played was February 6th, 1998 at the Phoenix Theater. I have the flyer right here. It was with the Blockheads, which was Steve Choi, who was he played drums in that. He was later in he was the guitar player in RX Bandits.
Oh wow.
He also was in the Chinkies. He was in a band with Brian Moss from Wonder Years and Great Apes called Trust Foundation. Let's see, what else did he do? He was in Slow Gherkin for a second, I think.
Okay.
Super rad dude. And so it was rad that he was at that show. Lucky Strike was on the show. Do you remember them?
I remember the name.
So they were from Sacramento. Gal playing drums, gal singer. Liz was the drummer. Mel was the singer. Guitar and bass. I ended up dating Liz for like a couple of years while we were touring. Like pretty much almost the whole of while I was in Link 80, I was dating Liz.
Okay.
So that was my first time seeing her. And it was a great show. It cost $5 to get into that show.
As they all did.
Yeah. So I think on that show, Link 80 was 9 people, I want to say.
Wow.
4 horns, 2 guitars, bass, drums, vocals, 9 people. Yeah.
What was the dynamic in the band at that point? Because it sounds like the way you're talking about it, it sounds like you got along with just a couple people, and that didn't sound like you had like beef with anybody else, but it wasn't this like family sounding vibe.
Yeah, at that point, it was weird. We had so Nick was gone at that point. Nick had died at that point.
Yeah, and I didn't
overdose.
Yeah, I didn't really want to talk about that if you weren't down, so I figured.
Oh well, I mean, I can talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
He had a heroin addiction. I know his mom, paints it as being morphine or whatever.
His mom was the writer.
Danielle Steele, the novelist. Yeah.
Yeah, she wrote a book about it, didn't she?
Yeah, and there's some really weird stuff in there that doesn't match up with.
Yeah, I heard about that.
People who were actually there.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Because she was pretty absent for a lot of. He was living at his therapist's house.
Okay.
In Pleasant Hill, and that was where I went to practice with them. And it was always kept like hush hush that like the adults that were around him were actually his therapists and his like handlers. When Link 80 was really young, there were different guys that would drive the van for them and it was just said, well, because you guys are really young, but it was actually therapists that Danielle had hired to drive the bus and to keep an eye on Nick, but nobody in the band was told that.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So pretty shady.
So how you don't have to like dive into that more, but like
sure.
How, because I read something on Wikipedia, like you guys there was like a breakup at some point where you guys parted ways in Chicago or something, and that's when Nick actually quit the band.
That was supposed to be the last tour that Matt was going to do.
Okay.
So they went out on this tour. There's actually videos of the show they played the night before in Madison. And it's a great show. Like they're playing outside. Crowd's super into it. They're having a good show.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
At some point in there, Nick had broken his foot, I think, on tour. Jumping off of something probably. Also at the beginning of that tour, I remember Nick had to go like to the chiropractor or someone. He was having issues with his back. And I remember he came in and somebody was like, so what did the doctor say? He said, don't jump around and go crazy and it'll be fine. He's like, but that's not going to work. Right.
Oh man.
And so he just went on tour with his back all fucked up. And then I think Aaron, the trumpet player, was roughhousing with Matt one night, just fucking around. and he punched Matt in the knee and broke his hand, punching Matt.
Oh, shit.
So Aaron's hand was all fucked up. Nick was all fucked up. So then I think they went and played. I want to say they played in Chicago or maybe in Milwaukee. And the show, I think that show was shitty. And then after the show, like Nick was like, I'm gonna go. Like I think he was like trying to be sober at the time, but he was struggling with it. And he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go smoke some weed and drink, and y'all can fucking kiss my ass. And that pissed some people off. They went and I think maybe one of the dudes knew that Cody wasn't just their driver, that he was like supposed to be watching Nick. So he was trying to get a hold of Cody. Cody wouldn't answer his phone. So then I guess Nick was off doing whatever, getting fucked up. That upset a bunch of the bands. Then the next morning, like he was like, I quit the band. And the band was like, well, whatever, you're fucking fired. So the band kind of like tried to kick him out and he quit. However you want to look at it. Like both sides were like ready to split it. So then the rest of the tour was canceled. Nick flew home. The van just drove straight home, and about halfway home, the driver had it with Adam, the bass player, kicked him out of the van. Keep in mind that Adam's like 17, 18 maybe at this point. He's a fucking kid.
Yeah.
And he kicks him out of the van, and he's like, find your own way home then. And so Joey's like, fuck that. Like, I'm not going to let Adam try to go home by himself. Like, so they're both like, fuck you. They get out of the van. They like take like Greyhound or Amtrak home. Like little kids.
Yeah. Jesus.
Fucking, like, how absurd is that like an adult allowed these like children to like basically like find their own way home.
God damn. I mean, I know what it's like to be on the road and just, I mean, you kind of, you find your breaking points, definitely. At certain
Definitely.
times.
But like as an adult, like that guy should have like been like, okay, I'm going to get a hotel for the night. We're going to cool out.
Yeah.
Regather in the morning. Like to like just kick little kids out of a van at like a truck stop.
That's
just be like, up. Bye. Like that's like, that's terrible.
Oh shit. So they get so they get back home, and then
they get back home. I get a call about halfway home from Seth being like, band's done. I'm super bummed because I've like learned all these songs and I'm like ready to jump in. I eventually get a hold of Nick at some point. He's like, yeah, I'm going to start a new thing. You know, you should come try out, play guitar. And I'm like, right on, that's cool. And then that thing ends up like solidifying and recording before I even like think about it again. Like knowledge has like happened at that point.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, so he's done this new thing. And then I feel like I even maybe went to a show that Knowledge played at, maybe with MUC30.
Uh-huh.
And a band called the Smocks, who I think were from somewhere out by Chicago. Anyhow, so then I get a call, Nick's passed away, go have the memorial, and then I get talking to all the guys, and they're like, what are they going to do? And they're like, well, he was already out of the band at this point. We were already thinking about new singers, so let's just move forward.
Yeah.
So they got the kid who was the roadie at the time. He was like the most like psyched about it. And he's like, dude, you guys already all know me. Like, I can totally do this. So we're like, okay. So we had this dude in the band for like a year, did a bunch of touring with him. Found out later, like we're like, okay, now it's time to record a demo with you. Go to this place, record a 3-song demo. Come to find out that, like, you know, you're playing all these punk shows, you're playing on shitty PAs, nobody can hear anything. Just find out that he's been just like cookie monstering his way through the shows. Like, he's not actually saying any words.
Really?
Yeah. And we'd had like new songs for a while that we were playing. And I was like, yeah, I just don't have them. And I was like, well, did you lose them? Like, are they on a piece of paper in the van or something? He's like, no, I never wrote any words. And we'd been touring on these songs for like months, and none of us knew.
Jesus Christ.
All we knew that he was going, oh, so we're like, okay, he must be saying something, like, no words.
Holy shit. That's
so
crazy.
he like pieces together some words for these demos. He can't string 2 lines together without fucking up. Like it takes like hours to record like a 3-minute song.
Like I know PAs
we're punching
were
him in every line.
I know PAs were shitty back then, but that's pretty crazy for a fucking year.
Right.
You guys couldn't
super crazy
hear that. That's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, he was just making like consonant sounds. Like he would just be like, you know, it sounded kind of like Voodoo Glow Skulls, but like Frank actually says something.
Yeah.
So we're like, that's fine. Like, you know, we're all, you know, busy doing our own shit. So we're not paying attention. We figure he's got it on lock. Nope. So we cut this demo. The last song, Adam and I are just like, let's just split the vocals ourselves. So we split the vocals. It takes, 20 minutes to record our parts. So we're like, okay, we got to do something about this guy. So we're like, you got to figure your shit out. And he's like, whatever, I'm already the best, like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, has built this huge ego at this point because he's like stepped into Nick's shoes.
Yeah.
And he like, girls are like throwing themselves at this dude. He thinks he's God's gift.
So what was it like, though, like when you guys started playing up again with a new singer? I mean, any band that's going to start up and play with a new singer just gets this, black and white reaction. It's like, we fucking accept you or we fucking don't accept you. And
see, I think since it was pre-internet,
okay,
I don't think a lot of people even realized.
No shit.
Like well up into when Ryan joined and started doing vocals, Ryan would have people come up to him at shows and be like, hey, Nick, good job.
Oh, wow.
And he'd be like, oh, you got to sit down, dude. I got to tell you something.
Oh, shit.
Like,
well, I mean,
Ryan and Nick sound and look nothing alike.
Yeah, they're completely different voices.
Right. So it was really weird to me that people just didn't seem to notice.
I mean, there was because like I said, because you guys were on the Cinema Beer Nuts or Cinema Beer Goggles comp video, and it was before you were in the band, and so that video was going around, and this is like 97, 98, I think. So I mean, obviously that had distribution where people would see it, and
totally, and there were huge bands on that too.
Yeah,
which made it like even more like it like pushed the band to like kind of another level almost.
Yeah, so it's crazy that people. I mean, that had to be in a lot of people's possessions. But I guess you're right, because there's sometimes where you look at a video and you see the singer, you're kind of like, oh, they look really different now, but you don't accept it. Like, oh, that's just not the same fucking person.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like Voodoo Glow Skulls just now went through they have a new singer.
Okay.
Like Frank quit, and they got the dude from I think Manic Hispanic to sing.
Okay.
And it seems like nobody's cared.
Well, I mean, this is so far after. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like once you have a certain established following and they want to hear certain songs, like as long as you play those songs, like nobody cares.
Yeah. I mean, because I guess I'm just saying it because like when we went on tour and played with you guys, actually it was 3 times. We did play with you guys up in Los Gatos, I think.
Okay, at the outhouse probably.
Yeah, it was like it looked like some it was kind of like a Legion Hall, but it was carpeted or something. I forgot.
Yeah, it was probably like a youth center.
Yeah,
there was probably like some video game cabinets in there.
Yeah, 100%. And
one of the only places I've actually seen Nazi skinheads during a show.
Oh, Jesus, really?
Yeah,
that was a crazy show, actually. But yeah, we went on tour and we had just kicked out, or actually our singer Chris had just left, so I took up singing, and we felt that. So I mean, it's always interesting to me to hear of other bands. I mean, obviously your guys' case it's weird because it's like it's a mixture of he quit, but then obviously passed away. So it's good. It's cool that people still showed up and they're like, well, fuck it, we're just still going to support you. So you didn't have to feel that backlash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think if Nick had not passed away, and there's 2 ways it could have gone. He could have stayed in Knowledge, and Knowledge would have blown up, and he would have been like, he eventually would have excelled to like rock stardom, or he would have rejoined Link 80 at some point down the road and done that.
Yeah, because
I feel like if he had survived, I think he either would have squashed Link 80 or rejoined Link 80.
Yeah.
So, but that's just my guessing.
Yeah. I mean, you knew him well enough to think that that could have gone in that direction. Plus the guys.
Yeah, and I know that like dudes in the band missed him. I mean, especially Joey. Joey really missed him. Joey would get really sad like around Nick's birthday or like around the time that Nick passed away. I remember one time we were on tour and like he was listening to some CD like nonstop, and like somebody was like, "Dude, can we put on a different CD?" And he's like, "Nah, like I'm listening to this, with my friend Nick right now. Like you need to fucking leave me alone."
Oh wow.
Like, and I was like, we're like, okay, cool. Go ahead and keep listening to it, dude. Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to fucking step on that.
Well, when you guys got rid of this other dude, how did that go down?
We just met, I think we met him at a show. We were going to see another friend's band, I think Longfellow.
Yep.
And there was already like all this tension. And we already had it in the back of our minds, like that we would ask Ryan to sing. Ryan was in a band called the Blast Bandits, who actually were this super sick ska band from the Central Valley, who Nick actually really liked a lot. And so we got their new demo, and Aaron played it for me. He's like, "Dude, listen to this." And I was like, "This is really good." He's like, "How about we ask this guy to sing?" And I was like, "That's a great idea." So we got Ryan in the band. Ryan already knew all the songs and could actually sing. So we brought him in, did a practice. We're like, "Dude, you're in." So, I mean, yeah, we basically, the only problem was kicking out the other guy was like the van was in his name or his parents' name at that point.
Oh, shit.
So we had to work on all that paperwork. And then they were like really kind of bad, malicious people. And I think that I think we'd left like a bass cabinet or something, and like dude's dad like filled the jacks of the bass cabinet with glue.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow, what a dick.
Yeah, totally. So good riddance. So then we got Ryan in the band, and I think we hit the first tour we did was with Homegrown.
Oh wow, yeah.
I want to say.
Okay.
And I felt like and so when we were playing with the other guy, a lot of people were coming out and seeing us, and then they were seeing this other dude, and he was not Nick. And so I think that it was starting to affect our draw.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, little by little, people are like, this new guy kind of sucks. Like, I'm not going to go see him. And then once Ryan came in, I feel like people were excited again. And like, oh, this new singer is pretty sick. And definitely on that tour with Homegrown, I felt like we started to, like, build back up again. Like, I feel like we were killing it every night and having a lot of fun. And, like, Ryan was super easy to get along with. And I felt like there started to be a shift within the band where everybody started to get along again, or was starting to get cohesive, and there wasn't like as much tension.
Yeah,
there was still tension, but it was lessening.
I remember like
at that point.
Yeah, so go on.
So at that point, Steve Borth had also joined. He was in Sacramento band called the Lestistics, who were another like crazy ska punk band. He joined. He and I got along super well. He lives in Denmark, and he like FaceTimes me at least once a month.
Oh wow!
Like we're totally still homies.
Yeah, he was a cool dude.
He was great.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was gonna say because when we played with you guys, I just remember just totally loving you guys because like I was like, man, because your sound was such this like snarky punk rock like ska with this kind of. I wouldn't say it's not scary, but there was just this edge to it that I'm like, man, these guys are like, I liked the sound because it was definitely different from any other ska bands. A lot of other ska bands had this polished, upbeat fun, and you guys had this like dark undertone to what you had. Yeah. So I'm thinking like, okay, when someone writes stuff like that, they've got to have some of an edge. So we show up and meet you guys. I'm like, fuck, these guys are nice as hell. And I didn't. Right. So I mean, when you're saying that, you felt that the dynamic shifted. From an outside perspective, from my perspective, it seems like I could see that unless a couple guys were completely bullshitting, but I didn't feel that there was anyone was being non-genuine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as the band like progressed and like eventually like when we got rid of or kicked out the other bass player, Adam, we replaced him with somebody from Ryan's old band, Barry, who was also in the Blast Bandits. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, he's the easiest dude to get along with. And so like, I feel like probably a lot of what informed that initial sound, hats off to Adam, like, I feel like he definitely was a huge part of all of that.
Yeah.
Because, but I feel like a lot of that just comes from like his upbringing and like, you know, trauma and, you know, whatever went into him being like a teenager. I mean, just shit like getting left on the side of the road, you know, halfway across America and having to find your way home as a teenager. Like that right there is like one little pinprick in the whole, you know, saga of what this dude's life probably felt like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's definitely probably a big part of what informed that whole aesthetic of like sounding that way.
Yeah.
And like, as the band kind of turned over and new blood came in that was able to be more cohesive, I think some of that probably dissipated a little bit, but you know, we'd already kind of established a sound. So it was easy to just kind of like say, this is Link 80 or this isn't Link 80 when we were writing stuff.
Yeah. I feel like Ryan's voice kind of brought in some melody.
Yeah, definitely.
They kind of softened it up like a little bit, or it was more inviting, I guess. It wasn't so harsh.
Yeah. And I've always been super behind just screaming. Like that's my jam. Like, and so I would bring that element, and then Adam was kind of the other dude that would do that. He had like a deeper yell. So we would kind of handle all the yelling, and then Ryan would just do the singing. Whereas when Nick was in the band, he would just do everything. I mean, there'd be like gang vocals, but like Nick could like go from like kind of the fast punk singing to like sort of melodic stuff to like just really like super hardcore vocals.
Yeah.
Whereas that all started to get split up. And then when Adam was kicked out, I was the sole person standing who liked scream. And so like, as the like recordings go on, like they like turn me down more and more in the mix, because like everybody was like not super down with it, but nobody really wanted to hurt my feelings. They just like, they're all kind of over it, which I get, but at the same time it's like, man, that's my jam. Like that's my favorite thing about this type of music.
Yeah. How often did you guys go on the road when you guys got Ryan?
Like
8
months out of the year.
Jesus. Were you guys actually pulling in? Were you making a living off of this, where you could actually pay rent or anything?
We might have at a certain. We were getting to that point, but we had a van payment. So on my first tour, we went through 3 vans.
Jesus.
We started with a '79 conversion, blew out the transmission on that. Called Mike, got some money. Mike, we got an '81 conversion van. That lasted a week.
Wow.
Threw a rod on that. Toast. So then we had to like take out a loan and buy like a 97 like 15 passenger van.
Yeah.
Which was the van we had until the end. It was great.
I think I remember you guys being in that. You had the trailer on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great van, but we went into like a huge amount of debt to get it. It's like it was actually in the grand scheme of things, it was $19,000. Like,
Jesus.
It's not all the money in the world, but it's when you're a poor ass punk kid.
Yeah.
It is.
When you're making like a $300-400 a month payment, then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we had to have full coverage insurance because of the loan. So we're paying another $300 on top of that. And then half the band seemed to not realize that anytime we would ask Mike for money or for CDs, that would then stack up against our royalties.
Right.
So we're not getting paid from Asian Man anymore. And we realized that we've run ourselves like 20 grand in the hole with Mike. Or maybe more than that, like a stupid amount. But he was being super good about it and just like, yeah, guys, like here's CDs, go out on the road. Like, just know that you're not going to get any money for a while.
Yeah.
So we're hand-to-mouthing it. We all just live with our parents when we get home. But at that point, we're kind of too old to be. Actually, we're not too old to be living with our parents. I think I was the oldest guy. I moved out when I was 23.
Yeah, that's like young now. I think like 32 is still standard nowadays.
Right. So it wasn't like, I was starting to feel the pressure, but I would just like, when I would be home, I would work like weird odd jobs that I could do in the middle of the night, and then I would just sleep all day.
Yeah, that was the worst too. When you got home from a long tour, I mean, you guys obviously toured way more than I did, but just you felt so disconnected from shit when you got back.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
I totally lost like a whole group of friends. Like they all got super into the rave scene.
Oh wow.
And started doing like pretty gnarly drugs. And like I came home, like there would just be less and less of them. Like they would just like everybody was sleeping with everybody else, and all these friendships were just falling apart. And so I would like I would not have anybody to hang out with when I'd get home. It was really, really weird.
Were you straight edge back then?
I'm still straight edge.
All right, yeah. I
41-year-old straight edge dude.
That's awesome, man. Why did you
It's
choose?
so weird.
Why'd you choose to go that route?
I grew up Mormon.
Okay.
And so I was hanging out with this kid, Will, who had moved down from Foster City. So he was into like all the like spaz and Agents of Satan and all this stuff that was happening at Gilman. So we were hanging out one day and he's like, "You want to go smoke weed after class?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't do that." He's like, "Wait, do you drink?" And I was like, "Nah." And he's like, "How come you don't have like X's all over your shit?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, you're straight edge." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm straight edge." And I didn't realize there was like a whole movement behind it. Yeah. I thought it was just like being like heterosexual or Caucasian. Like, right. You're just straight edge. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm straight edge. So I started calling myself straight edge, and then finally realized that people like put X's on their hands and do all this stuff, and there's bands, and I was like, okay. And then it would be weird. And then it started to get weird because like there were like 3 straight edge dudes. Myself, Aaron, and Jason were all straight edge. And we would like X up sometimes at shows.
Yeah.
And we stopped doing it because like there would always be like these like Punisher kids that would come to shows and they'd be like, "I'm straight edge too." And they'd have X's on their hands, and then like later in the night, like they'd be trying to hang out with us, and then later in the night they'd be like shit faced and like blacked out in the corner. And we're just like, that's kind of not what we're doing, dude. Like it's not like just for tonight. Like it's kind of a bigger commitment than that.
Oh shit.
All those guys are actually still straight edge. Like Aaron's still straight edge, Jason's still straight edge.
Yeah, Aaron's got his oil paintings that he does now.
Yeah, he's really
awesome.
Getting good.
Yeah,
and he's also he's become like a physical fitness dude.
Oh wow!
So he like teaches at a couple different gyms. If he has a Instagram Nagel Gym @Nagel Gym, and it's just him doing insane exercises.
Really?
Dude looks like an action figure. Like he's like so ripped.
Nagel
it's
Gym.
Insane.
I'm going to this right now.
Yeah.
I should change that M to an M or M to an N. Nagel.
So there's a big
holy
cemetery.
Jesus Christ! He's
fucking, right.
It's Nagel. So it's Nagel.gym on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's killing it.
So like, what was when you guys were when you're on the road? Like, what was like the biggest show you guys played on the road?
Probably it might have been right after that Toronto show we played with you. We played with this band called Grimskunk.
Okay.
Who were this huge Canadian band. They were not big anywhere else in the world, but in Canada they're enormous. And so we played like a stadium.
Get the fuck out of here.
We were main support. It was like an outdoor stadium. We have footage of it. It looks insane. And somebody told me there were 3,000 people there, but it had to be way more than that. It was a stadium. Crazy. It was like an insane amount of people.
That's wild because that Toronto show we played, it was, I don't know, maybe 60 kids, maybe?
Yeah, it was not a lot.
It was not a lot.
And if I remember right, everybody had problems getting across the border too.
Like the bands or the kids who wanted to come?
The bands, yeah. No, not the kids.
We had no issue with Lawrence Arms. I don't know what other bands were actually playing that show or supposed to play that show. But
I feel like that might have been the one where we had issues getting across.
I think you guys did.
Because I know most times we were able to like pull off the bullshit thing of having the fake contract saying that we were going to record somewhere.
Yeah.
And then they didn't fall for it this time. And I think we ended up having to pay like $700 in like tariffs on all of our merchandise. Jeez. But on the other end of that, they could have just like seized our van, seized all of our gear, put us in jail. And then when we got out, they could have like made us pay to get all of our stuff back, which is fucking bananas.
Yeah.
But the really funny thing I remember about that border crossing was all the people that were working at the border station were all women. They were all super good looking. And
Go Canada.
And they were all like close to our age.
Oh no shit.
and it just felt like, is this the beginning of a porno? Like, this is weird. Like, they were all like super kind about it, but like at the end, you had to pay $700.
It's like that scene from Days of Thunder. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Oh, there's a scene where they get pulled over and they're all driving somewhere, and like Tom Cruise, they're all in the back of this big rig, and they get out. The state trooper is just like patting them down, but she ended up being like a stripper or something. And he thought she was in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of it all, after everything was hunky dory and you're ready to go, we like took pictures with them.
They're like, because it was thanks for taking our $700 fucking dollars,
and they were really cute.
Well, the Canadian,
like, okay, well,
they're very nice people, from what I've heard.
So yeah, we played this show with this band Grimskunk. That was probably the biggest we ever played, or at least the biggest that I remember playing.
You guys have a consistent but large draw when you would show up to shows?
Yeah, we had a pretty good draw. It would really only be if the promoter had not put in the effort. Like, it was noticeable. Like, we would show up somewhere, and you know, our booker Steve Ozark Talent represent. He was really good about mailing out like posters and stuff for the shows. And I remember we showed up to somebody's show, and all the posters that he had sent, like 50 posters, full color, full bleed print, super nice posters, are just sitting in the corner. Oh my God. Like, just in a stack. And we're like, wow, okay, so he really didn't put in the effort.
Yeah, it pissed me off.
But we were also, I mean, since we had contracts and stuff, and we were we were nice, but you know, we definitely had like a thug mentality. Oh, yeah. We would shake kids down if they, you know, if we had a contract that said we get paid X amount of money, we made sure we collected.
Yeah.
So that part kind of helped like soften the blow of not maybe having a bad show. Like, just be like, well, you still got to pay us.
Were you guys still into ska like towards the end of like the bands? Like, it was 2002, you guys parted ways, right?
I think we were pretty burned out on ska at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely like ska a lot more now. Because I mean, we were listening to all sorts of weird, like we were listening to like At the Drive-In, and we ran into At the Drive-In and Jimmy Eat World on tour. Wow. Like, we had a day off and we got to see them play at some little tiny like Christian rec center. We actually missed At the Drive-In.
Oh my God.
And then we saw Jimmy Eat World, and they played this. This was I think maybe Clarity had just come out or was about to come out.
It was out.
And
it was out for a while. Or okay. It was out within that for that year, yeah.
So I guess the label that put that out considered it a failure. Like, it was not a well-received album, I guess. But we fucking loved that album.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember at that show, they played The Sweetness.
Yep.
Which was on the next record.
Yeah.
And I remember them playing it because it was so fucking catchy. And I was like, that song is killer. And then it came out years later, and I was like, that's that song they played.
Yeah. Yeah, Clarity, when that came out, they had the 5-song LP that came out with Lucky Denverman. And there's 2 songs on that record that actually aren't released on Clarity. But I heard that they funded that record themselves, and then it got picked up by a record label. Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was one of those, like, Static Prevails was a flop to Capitol, because Capitol they were pulling out all these MTV bands or whatever, and but then Clarity was this cult following that actually pushed them to do Bleed American, and then
and then they dropped the title of that album.
Yeah, really quickly. It was
9/11. Hey.
I think it was like 10 days like prior, or it was coming out, and it came out as. And it was like that summer it came out, I think. And then 9/11 happened, and they were like, fuck, we got to get rid of that.
Yeah, there's this Oakland rap group, The Coup. That movie, Sorry to Bother You, that just came out.
Okay.
It's that dude's rap group, the dude that made that movie.
Okay.
They put out an album that I think actually on the cover showed the World Trade Center blowing up. And it came out on 9/11.
Oh, I remember that.
And they were like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, there was also like the Spider-Man promo was coming out, and he had a web between the 2 towers and shit. Yeah. Yep. Oh my God.
Crazy times.
Nuts. Yeah, I definitely remember that, because we our last tour was that tour we played with you guys. We got home, and then Brian, who was in the band, he was just like, yeah, I don't want to fucking do this anymore. And then, years later, he does Gaslight Anthem, and which was like crazy. But
he was the one that sang on the Soul Asylum cover.
Yeah.
That's bonkers. Because that's like the strongest memory I have from that Toronto show.
Oh yeah, because that's
like,
the only song you'd know.
Because I feel like it was in like another, like I feel like there were like two rooms, like a room where like maybe the merch was.
Yep.
And then the room where the bands were playing. It was kind of a weird setup. And then I remember you guys launching into that and like recognizing it immediately from the intro.
Yeah.
And being like, what the fuck? And like running in and watching you guys play that song and just being like, because I was like an MTV kid.
I remember you actually coming in when we played that, because you were like this tall dude, this burned out bleach blonde hair, and I think you were like wearing like a white t-shirt or something. You like ran it up and you're like, holy shit. And it's like, Jesus.
Yeah, I was juiced. I definitely am somebody who, if I like something, I don't hide it.
That's also
I get really amped.
Here comes this like metal dude loving Soul Asylum in the room.
Yeah.
What was like the final thing that broke you guys up?
I had quit. I quit to join Lucky Strike with the girl Liz that I was dating.
Okay.
So the band didn't do anything for about 9 months while I went and did that. And that period of time, Lucky Strike broke up. Liz dumped me, and I'm just sitting in Sacramento working at Jamba Juice, like hating my life.
Oh man.
So I send an email to the rest of the guys in Link 80, and I'm like, hey, I've made a fucking huge mistake. I know you guys have probably already found a new guitar player, but if you haven't, I would love to come back. I'm a total moron. Please take me back. And then Aaron writes me back, and he's like, yeah, we've already got somebody. Sorry, dude. Hopefully things work out for you.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, man, that sucks. So then like maybe a week or two go by, and then I get this call from Aaron, and he's like, hey, this new dude's not working out. We've got a UK tour booked. You already have a passport. We know you. We know you know the songs. How about you just come do the tour, and then we'll figure it out after if you're still going to be in the band or not. And I'm like, I jump at it. I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, that's the best deal that I've ever gotten. So
that's awesome.
I get rid of my apartment in Sacramento. You know, I think at that point I was playing bass in Lucky Strike. So I sold all the bass gear that I'd bought new guitar gear. I think I got like a Guitar Center credit card so I could do that. So I go in debt.
Yep.
And then I rejoin Link 80, go do this one tour. It's killer. We have a blast. I'm totally on my best behavior the whole time because I'm like so stoked that they're letting me do this. Meanwhile, the airline loses my baggage. So I have no clothes. So I'm wearing 2 different outfits for the whole tour. And I smell super bad, and I'm getting really depressed because I smell so bad. I'm like trying to like get other bands to like give me t-shirts, and like my friends that are in the UK, I'm like, please just bring me some socks or some underwear. Like I'm dying. Like the last week of the tour, I get my bag back. But like I just remember I went out with this band Countdown that we put a split out with. We went out bowling with them. And everybody was having a great time, having fun. And I was just sitting there so depressed because I just smelled so bad. I was just, I couldn't get over it. Like I was just like, I smell terrible. Like I feel like death. So then we got back, and they had a band meeting without me. And they're like, and Aaron calls me. He's like, so we all love you. Like you're totally a bro.
But you smell like shit.
Come back. You smell like shit. He's like you should come back, but Steve is gonna quit and join our Heroin Bandits. So then we're like, so do we keep pushing on this, that we're all kind of like playing some of these songs that we're like really burned out on, or do we like reformat the band, call it something else, and do something new? And we just all jump at the chance to do something new because we're like thinking that we can just like write a bunch of new songs, put a new name on it, and people will still come see us.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
Nope.
So we take like a year off basically and write a bunch of new material, play locally a ton. But we end up playing with like all these like kind of young pop punk type bands. And we're trying to do this like weird, like kind of at the drive-in light hardcore type thing.
Yeah.
And we're all buying. Yeah. And then Aaron moves over from trumpet to guitar, and he gets really into being a super shreddy guitar player. And I'm like just still just like bashing away on my guitar. And we buy a bunch of effects pedals, and we end up with giant pedal boards. And like looking back on it now, it's like we basically just like burned through like 6 years of our like 20s just doing this like weird project that really we should have decided on a direction. Like, and we'd actually had that conversation. And I was like one of the biggest proponents of just like, we don't need to figure it out. We can just let it happen, which is fucking bullshit. Like, I was so wrong. Like, I'm glad I can at least recognize that now.
I liked the Dessa stuff when it came out.
I mean, there were like moments in it, but like whenever I listen to it, all I hear are the compromises and the things that like aren't fun to me. Like, if we should have just decided what we wanted to be. Either there was a couple of different ways we could have gone. We could have been like, Ryan wrote songs. Ryan was writing really super catchy songs at the time. We could have just fallen in line behind Ryan, played his songs as he wrote them, rather than trying to like add weird stuff in. And that probably would have been fine. We could have tried to become a super techie, like rippy math rock band and just like put everything into that. Or we could have been like a super chaotic, like hardcore band.
You know, man, I mean, honestly, like thinking back to that and thinking of the people I've interviewed, I think in that era when all this was going down, a lot of bands did that. They were trying to catch up to the scene change that was happening.
Right.
And what we were all playing, or a lot of bands were playing, it was kind of obsolete. And it was like, you're trying to hold on to it. You're like, well, I've put this many years into this shit. I want to keep playing, but no one's caring about what we're doing. We got to figure out.
So maybe if I try to sound like Refused,
right?
Maybe somebody will care. Maybe if I put on a V-neck sweater and rage super hard, people will care.
Exactly.
And nobody cares.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, but people can smell bullshit if you know.
Totally, because it's not being authentic.
Exactly.
It's trying to put on something new, and we were looking at all these other things that other bands were doing, and like maybe we can incorporate that. And I don't know.
The sound like just ricocheted in all these different directions because like 2003, 4 hit, and you've got like Brand New comes out, Take It Back Sunday comes out, fucking Yellow Card blows up. Like, it was just like, this band's got a fucking violin in it. Then so like Drive Through Records just blows up, and something corporate and all these bands. So there's so many different directions where everyone's like, fuck, man, like, where do we?
And like we were looking at like RX Bandits, like they put out Resignation, and that album, it has no ska on it anymore.
Yeah,
but it still has horns. It's like, really aggressive with all these like cool intricate changes, and people are still just like falling in line with this band. Like, even though like they sound nothing like Pharmaceutical Bandits anymore, they're now like this like ripper, like really technical band.
Yeah. And then that one too.
We can do that.
Yeah. Oh, then he also does that. He does Sounds of Animals Fighting, which is just digital noise and screaming for the whole time. And then he gets like Anthony Green from Seosin and then Cirque Survive to be in. Everyone's like, "Oh, this is great." And you're like, "No, it's really not that great." But I totally fucking get it. I mean, one of the questions I had for you was, there's the one song on a comp came out right. I don't even know when it was, like early 2000, with the song The Last shit was like my favorite song.
The Last Time. Like, I loved that song. Yeah, so that was kind of the direction we started to go with all the Link 80 stuff, where it was almost more of like a Rocket from the Crypt type vibe.
Yeah.
Which I think could have worked. Like that's like a good example of like there's like two different vocal parts on that song. There's like Ryan's vocal and there's me screaming.
Yeah.
And like definitely like my vocal is significantly quieter than Ryan's vocal, which is, definitely like people didn't want to like step on my feelings, but at the same time, like everybody was pretty over screaming at that point.
Yeah.
And like as you listen to the subsequent like Dessa recordings, like as they go on and on and on, like my vocal just gets mixed lower and lower and lower. It's so funny.
So like,
I kind of noticed it at the time and I was kind of hurt, but at the same time, like I got it. Like,
yeah,
I was like, nobody wants to hear that. So
when Dessa was done, were you just like done with music?
Yeah, I was super burned out on music. I felt like I'd wasted shit ton of time. I was just angry. And that's what informed Narboots when I started it. It was the idea of like, I want to create this thing that just does all the dumb stuff that I see bands doing, but does it on purpose. And I'm going to try to like just burn bridges, just like I'm going to try to make everyone else hate music too. That was kind of the idea. So we would like purposefully do things to be obnoxious, like play one part like way too long, like just keep repeating a part until like somebody would like try to come over and unplug us, or like doing all the bullshit talking on the mic that like bands do way too much between songs.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing that bands do, especially like lead singers to jump around a lot, is when they talk into the mic like this between songs, like breathing super heavy into the mic. Yeah. We would just do dumb shit like that, just to like, and then we would play these like super dumb hardcore songs about like being an omnivore or having tinnitus. Or like just dumb, super dumb shit. And then like Bob, who was playing bass at the time, he was working at Asian Man. So he got Mike to put out our record.
No shit.
Which was just like, it's a dumb record. Like it's half like Bob's pretty good like Shinobu sounding songs, and then half these just like super stupid hardcore songs. And like people bought it and were just like, this is garbage. And it's like, well, it wasn't actually supposed to get pressed on vinyl. Like it was supposed to just go out on the internet for free.
This is incredible. Yeah, because your profile picture's hilarious because you got a t-shirt on, just "We are all Narboots," and you're just like on the ground with paper money around you.
Yeah. Well, the band is like since progressed into like a much more. It's like gone full circle where.
Is it like a real
like
band?
We were playing these shows. Well, we were playing these shows, and it was like, well, the dumb shit we were doing was like getting a good reaction from like these like young kids that were coming to our shows now and who had never seen Link 80. And so they're like we were trying to like make a space where like anything could happen. And we started doing this thing where we would just like put canned beats on an iPod, and like halfway through the show, we just put down our instruments and like grab the mics and like hit play on the iPod and just like basically do like karaoke over the iPod. Just crank the iPod all the way through the monitors and just go ape shit. And so that started to like really, shake things up and make these really fun shows. And then it's over the last almost 10 years now, it's just progressed into this weird party band where just like anything goes. And we used to like kind of throw stuff around at venues to like try to get them to ban us. Mm-hmm. But we've since tried to like soften that a little bit, and we'll go up to like whoever's working at the venue, like the sound people and the security and the manager, and be like, hey, we're super crazy. We're going to make a giant mess. We also have brooms though. So at the end of our set, we're going to clean up. Like, so just let us do our thing for 45 minutes and we'll reset your club back to zero when we're done. and so far everybody's been really cool about it. Like,
that's awesome.
And like, so we just played at Bottom of the Hill on Monday night, and Lynn, the manager, was like kind of stressed out because we were like blowing up balloons, and she's like, oh, we've got all these vintage light fixtures in here. Whenever there's balloons, people try to like throw them at the lights and knock them over. So we're like, okay, well, we'll be chill about it. And we did our normal crazy thing, and she was like, that was great. And like at the end, we like cleaned up, and she was like, totally fine. Like you guys can totally do that. You guys definitely have this under control. You've been doing this long enough to know like how much chaos you can create and like still keep the venue from like falling apart.
What do you feel like you get out of it when you're doing these you were a stay-at-home dad for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm just turning the corner on that. Like my youngest just started kindergarten, and so he has only half days right now. So in another week, I'll have both kids at school from 8:30 until 3 o'clock. So I'll have like a full day that I can bang on work and try to get things done. Now,
when you do work now, is it still design?
Illustration. Yeah, I'm doing some illustration. I also do guitar lessons, and I also just started teaching classes at our gym.
Oh, nice.
So I'm kind of going down the same road a little bit that Nate Nagel is doing.
It's just so funny, just from your stories, anyone listening, it's like you follow Adam, or like I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he's like dad of the fucking year. He's just always doing these cool things with his boys.
For summertime, I'm home with the boys, and everybody else is putting their kids in camps and stuff. And I'm like, man, this is the only time that I'm gonna have to like have these kids at this age. Like, I should do things with them. And like, I was talking to one of my other dad friends about it, because my son's really into Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
And so we have a Nintendo Switch, and we were playing Breath of the Wild on it. And he's pretty content to just watch me play, but now he's like wanting to play it himself. And I was talking to my friend about it, like, because I'm like, man, I feel conflicted. Like, I'm letting my kid play all these video games. And he's like, yeah, but you're like right there with him. And like, how cool would it have been for our dads to sit down and play Zelda with us? Like, that would have blown your mind as a kid.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like it's a different time. Like, I'm a different person than my own dad is. Not that my dad wasn't cool, but he didn't grow up with Zelda.
Well, they didn't really grow up with video games in general. So
they didn't grow up with shit.
They didn't know what it was. Yeah, they were like making things out of metal or something. Or like,
right.
They had to use their fucking imagination. God,
Yeah, back when I was a kid.
Suckers.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's all. Do you teach your kids about? Do you like teach them about like the music that you used to listen to, or?
Yeah, I mean, they came to the 20-year Link 80 reunion because we did 2 shows. We did a nighttime show on like a Friday, and then on Saturday we did a matinee show.
Yeah. And
so they came to the matinee.
Were they like, so when they saw you on stage, were they blown away that dad's just like kicking ass on stage?
They were pretty down with it for like a song and a half. My wife was like watching them along with our friend Chris, who's actually from Toronto. And about a song and a half in, they realized they couldn't just get up on stage and start banging on drums and making noise with me. So they got kind of bummed out about that. And then they just wanted to like play dumb games on my wife's phone. But I mean, they had fun for like, a little while. And like one of the other families that was there, this gal Rachel, who used to come to our shows back in the day, she was there with her husband at the time and their kid, who's the same age as my oldest. And they had the same review that like he was down with it for about a song and a half, and then he was like over it.
Yeah, we just played a show a couple 6 weeks ago, and my buddy had his little girl on stage with his giant, headphones on, and my other buddy had his little son in there. So they're sitting on stage watching us, and towards the end, I'm looking over, and they're kind of just like looking off in the distance and stuff. And I'm like, man, tough crowd, dude.
Yeah. I mean, my kids, they're pretty used to me playing music. I lead the sing along at the library.
Yeah, I saw that. So you show
once or
up
twice a month there.
Yeah, what is that? Because I thought that was Nar Boots for a minute. When I saw that.
Yeah, no, that's just, we had an idea for a while to do like a children's Nar Boots thing, and we might still at some point.
Yeah.
But I used to take my kids to this sing-along at the library that was like super whack. It would just be like this mom like kind of sitting in the corner like barely singing, and it was just like not fun.
Yeah.
But it was somewhere to take my kid when he was a baby. And then as I got older, then somebody else stepped into that position, and they were pretty good. But they were like, you should come do this. And I was like, all right. So I brought my guitar and learned a couple songs, and it like really made all the parents that were there like super stoked, because they were no longer having to just like sit there for 45 minutes and like half-heartedly sing. They could completely stop singing if they wanted to, because I was singing loud enough and my guitar was loud enough and their kids totally engaged. So now I just go do that, and it's a nice opportunity to just get up and play. And the funny thing about that too is I've had at least 2 different moms recognize me from playing bands.
No shit.
Like this one gal came up and she was, how come you didn't play any Dessa songs?
Wow.
And so the next time I saw her, I actually played a Dessa song, which,
That's so
to everybody
cool,
else,
man.
it just sounded like a, kind of nursery rhyme type song. But for me and that person, it was like this really awesome connecting moment.
What do you play? Like, what songs do you play to the kids?
I mean, like all the like kid classics, Wheels on the Bus and Old MacDonald and You Are My Sunshine. But then I'll pepper in like I'll do like a Pavement song, or White Stripes,
That's
or
awesome.
Weezer. Yeah, so just throw in weird stuff. I've opened with like a Fugazi song before.
Wow.
I'm So Tired off the Instrument soundtrack.
That's
just
great.
like, yeah. And I just talk to the parents while I'm playing, because I know that a lot of them, this is their first kid. Their kid's really young. Their kid's not sleeping. Their kid poops and pisses themselves all the time, spits up all the time. They're exhausted. And so I try to just give them 45 minutes where they can like chill and like just hold their kid and be present in the moment. And I always do this thing towards the end where I put all the kids on the parachute. Like we have a big colorful parachute at the library. And I have all the parents stand around the outside, or all the caretakers, adults. And I get them to like all look at their kid, and I take them on like a guided meditation of like, okay, look at your kid right now. This is the youngest they're ever going to be. And then we kind of progress through until they like leave for college. I like talk to them about all of it. And I try to get people to cry. And it always makes me feel really good, because then I go, okay, but now look at them again. They're still a kid. They're still here. Like, you still have all of today for them to be this age. Like, so go forward today and have a great day. And now we're going to sing You Are My Sunshine. And everybody's like, and it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at one of the pictures on your Facebook page, and there's you. It's like your picture from your back, your face in the crowd, and they're all sitting on this parachute.
And I'm wearing my Link 80 hoodie.
Yeah, against the rest. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's so cool that you get to do that. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
I feel
like Narboots and the sing along. I feel like in the last couple of years, I've made more music or make more money playing music than I ever did when I was like really pushing on it.
Most likely.
Because I give guitar lessons. I provide music at the preschool co-op that my kids just graduated from. Narboots actually does pretty well every single time we play a show, which is fun because, we don't practice or anything. So we don't have a practice space to pay for.
Wow.
So when we show up and play these shows and they hand us $100, we're like, that's a free $100. Like, so we just put it in a drawer and, use it when we need to.
I mean, it sounds like you're doing it your own way. That's like your personality. That's 100% in all of these things.
Totally.
Yeah. I think that's when things work. I think it's when people are forcing something in life or in general, or bands, it's when they're putting too much effort in just what they think that other people want to hear, and they're not doing what their own thing is. It gets completely dismissed. It's inauthentic.
And that's the big thing with Dessa at the end. Like, I feel like the last album that we put out, we made all these compromises because we were like working with a producer. And so at the end of the day, like, if it's not successful, well, then you compromised yourself. You compromised your vision. If you're going to fail, fail on your own accord.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's everything that you want putting forward. And that way, if somebody comments on the internet, takes 2 seconds to write, this sucks, then at least it's not because of some, bullshit reason that you made. At least you're like, well, I put the best art out there that I could. I feel good about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just commonly known that if you don't get likes on something, it's bullshit, even though that's not like, that doesn't really mean anything, because people still will look at something and,
I also really, really got to get people to stop putting, when they like promote Narboots, that I was in Link 80.
Yeah.
Because there's no crossover there. Like, nobody who's going to see... Nobody who went to see Link 80 is going to want to see what Narboots is doing. I mean, we're totally fun. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think anybody who comes to one of our shows is going to leave going, wow, that was super fun, even if they hated music.
Yeah.
But, like, musically, it's such a different beast. It's much, much weirder. It's not ska punk. Although we do have, like, this one song. We have a song that's just about Mike Park and Asian Man Records.
Okay.
And it's like we took like the canned ska beat from like a Casio keyboard and like made this song that like we'll just like pull out randomly when we want to like fuck with people. And we like try to get the audience to all skank, which is always really funny because it's, always the last show we played was like very adult. Like it was, nobody there was probably younger than like 25.
The Narboots show, or
sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, there was one kid. This kid MC Bike Chain, who's been coming to our show since he was 11, He was there. He's like 17 or 16 now.
MC Bike Chain.
But he was there. He was the youngest kid. But everybody there was like an adult. And so we're just getting in everybody's faces and just like screaming at them like, fucking skank. Fucking used to love this shit when you were 16. Fucking do it. And just getting, and like some people will just be like, yes, sir, and just start doing it. Other people are just staring at their beer, just like, please don't look at me. And like, I just take my microphone and I just stick it in their beer.
That's awesome. I think they should fly out to the fucking San Francisco just to see this shit.
I mean, we're pretty fun. Hopefully one of these days, I mean, this is probably going to be the band that I'll do until I die.
Yeah.
Because Aaron and I have known each other for forever. We have a blast doing it. And I feel like in the next couple of years, we'll probably start, like, now that my kids are getting older, we'll probably find a way to go like, okay, this weekend, let's fly down to Southern California and play 2 shows. Let's fly out to the East Coast and play 3 or 4 shows.
Yeah.
Like if we can make the money work on it, we'll go play wherever.
Hey man.
Like I'd love to get us out to Japan. I think Japan would be like all about what we're doing.
That's Mike Park to fly out there.
Shit. Mike still likes to hold it over us that he flew us out to Japan. I mean, I'm eternally grateful, but he footed a bill for that. We did a tour in 2000 over there, played 3 shows. Potshot gave us their whole guarantee for 1 show, which was like over $8,000, and that paid for our whole trip.
Holy shit.
They're the nicest dudes.
That's fucking insane.
Everybody in Japan was fucking incredible to us.
Yeah, there's a couple episodes ago that I had talked to somebody about that. We were talking about like, why didn't bands ever just capitalize on going overseas and going into Japan, where it always sounded like things always seemed to work out for bands, like
right.
financially.
Yeah.
And the crowds would just like eat the shit up because they would just love it.
Yeah, the crowds over there are incredible.
Yeah.
And the sound people over there are incredible. I showed up to one show. The guitar rig was a tiny, like 15-watt practice amp and one of those orange distortion pedals,
mm-hmm.
like a Boss distortion pedal. And I was like, this is going to sound... It was a huge room, too. Like, easily 1,000 people could fit in there. And they're just like, yeah, plug in. And I plug in my guitar, and it sounded like there was a Marshall full stack behind me. Like, wow. They had their monitors and their PA so dialed in that it sounded incredible. And I was like, well, I guess I'm squared away for the day.
Yeah, you're like, well, I guess I need to lug all that shit around, that heavy stuff, for so many years, because
yeah, right.
If someone just could know the sound well, and we have a good sound person, that could just happen. We all have PV amps.
Yeah. So you want to talk about some New Jersey bands?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was gonna just wrap it up a couple questions, but like, was there anything in New Jersey that when you guys would play out there? I mean, was there anything memorable about it, or anything that stood out to you?
Do you know Joe Edwards? Joseph Edwards. He was in a band called Take Today.
Yeah, Joe. Joe. I saw him a couple years ago.
He has always been super cool to me specifically. Super nice kid. He came and saw us. We played out there with Animal Chin. Mm-hmm. The most memorable thing about that show is Andy, the bass player for Animal Chin, broke a string. No. Andy didn't break a string. Excuse me. Jamie broke a string, the guitar player.
Okay.
So, and he didn't have a backup, I don't think. So they just like vamped on this one part of the first song for like a good 2 minutes. Just Andy just played this riff and just talked while Jamie went and changed the string, and then they just all came back in. Like, it was like the best use of like vamping and time filling I'd ever seen. I was so stoked on them. And I remember I hung out with Joe. I think Joe had like hit me up on like Instant Messenger or something before that. And so that was my first time hanging out with him in real life. And then years later, he got the Link 80 tattoo on. He was like one of the first people I saw that got like the 80 tattooed on his forearm. And he since has like filled it all in around it, so it's not as noticeable. But it used to be the only thing in like the middle of his arm. Yeah,
last time I saw him, Lawrence Arms went on a tour in like 2014 or 13. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like 2013, 2014. Yeah, 2014, because that was with the summer, and I was there, and he ended up showing up, and that's like the last time I saw him. But we were at that show.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed. I thought he was going to fly out for the reunion show, but.
Good job, Joe.
I don't think he could make money work for it. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe. Hopefully you're listening.
Okay, so he was big for me.
Okay.
As a person.
Awesome.
Big Wig.
Yep.
They were big. We did a whole tour with them around when I think their first album came out. So at the time, John Castellano was playing bass. A dude named Josh was playing second guitar.
Yeah.
Matt Gray was still on drums. Matt Gray was getting naked at like every single show and like doing like Texas wristwatch with his dick. Like middle of the set, like totally just like unhinged out of his mind, playing this like super blistering pop punk.
Yeah, actually,
so we actually played a big show with them in Montreal, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah,
that was a pretty big show. They did really well up in Canada.
Oh, they killed it in Canada. I think they still kill it in Canada.
Yeah, I think that's like their best market.
Yeah.
And we had inherited this idea from Animal Chin of putting tiger balm on our testicles before shows.
Yep.
And like Andy from Animal Chin would be like, it lights the fire. And he would like do this thing with his fingers. It lights the fire. and it worked. Like it totally puts you in the moment because your shit's on fire.
Yeah, because your menthol like just burning you up.
Oh yeah, and the more you sweat, the worse it gets. And so it would just drive, like, I remember the first time Link 80 did it, we were like feral animals on stage. We were just like freaking out, like going super hard. And so we're like, that was rad. Like, that's fun. Especially for straight edge kids. Like, we're just like, that's the shit. So we talked Josh from Bigwig into doing it before this huge show. And so he's like, okay. And so he puts some on his nut and goes out on stage. And like one song in, he's like looking at us from the edge of the stage, just like screaming, just like, oh my God. And we're just laughing. We're all dying. And then he tries to take a giant pitcher of water and like pour it on his crotch, which when you add moisture to it, makes it 1,000 times worse.
Right.
So we're like, no, like we all stop him. And eventually, it dissipated and he was fine.
I think I actually
cracked me up.
There was one time we played we used to play with Bigwig, not a lot. I mean, there was when I first started playing music, like I think episodes like 8 through 12 or something of this whole podcast, there's a lot of Bigwig we were talking about, and there's a lot of bands I was talking to that were at this first show where we all had played with Bigwig for the first time. So I remember just seeing them for the first time, they just would go fucking off, and then through the years I always looked up to them like, man, these guys are just so fucking good. And we started playing some shows with them towards the end of our playing shows or before we disbanded. But I remember hearing somebody talk about how they would take Gold Bomb and put them on their balls.
Yeah, we eventually stopped doing Tiger Bomb and started doing Gold Bond.
Yeah.
And we would pretty much tell every band we would go on tour with to like do that. And so it just like spread like wildfire. And like I'll still do it sometimes. Like just if I feel like I need a little extra oomph.
Yeah.
Put a little Gold Bond on my nuts and like it just like turns up the colors on everything, I feel like. It makes the day that much brighter. It's way less aggressive than Tiger Balm. Tiger Balm is like way harder. But and then I've also noticed though, if you do it too many times in a row, like it stops working.
Interesting.
So you have to stop.
Because
I know this is all totally disgusting.
This is perfect. We can talk about it a lot.
Okay, so Bigwig, they were big for us. The roadies, they had 2 roadies at the time, Horse and Monkey.
Yep.
Monkey is Mike Cipriano, I think.
Mike Cipriano.
Excuse me. Super great dude. Years later, ran into those dudes when so Beefcake was that a New Jersey band?
I always thought they were New York based.
Were they Long Island?
I thought they were New York based, but Jack, who is their drummer, he was from Jersey because he used to be in this band called Sticker back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I knew John from Beefcake because he was dating Mel from Lucky Strike for a little bit. And then he joined the Ataris right when they did the big major label album with the Boys of Summer cover.
Yeah.
So he was on that tour.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then I think Horse and Monkey were roadieing for the Ataris then. And I think Matt Gray was actually drum teching for them. And Horse didn't remember me at all, which like really bummed me the fuck out.
I actually just ran into Matt Gray.
Those guys.
I ran into Matt Gray about a month ago. Me and my buddy were going to practice. We were up in Jersey for the Lamar thing, and we ended up going to this diner in my old hometown. And we sat down, and Sean, who's the drummer at Lamar, he goes, "Dude, look to your right." And I look over, and it's literally Matt Gray with his family just on their way to the city. And I'm like, how the fuck did that just happen? Like, I haven't seen him in decades, and he was still Matt, like exactly Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks exactly the same.
Yeah, 100%. He's
I
still
love,
like the
I love
same guy.
following him on Facebook because he just like posts videos of himself like
playing drums.
He's gotten really into like playing drums over like classic punk songs.
Yep.
And he's like such a ripper. It's so fun to watch him play drums. I just like get this big smile on my face every time I watch him play. I mean, dude, like all of his tattoos are like punk band tattoos.
Yeah.
Like homeboy loves punk music. So it's just like, dude, I'm glad he found something that he fucking loves so much. And I'm glad that he's like passing on his drumming to his kid. Like his kid's super into it.
Yeah, I saw his, because his kid was with him. I was like, dude, I'm like, where's the drummer? And his wife like points to him. I'm like, dude, like you rock. He's like, oh wow, thanks, man.
Yeah, that's badass.
That's cool, man.
Let's see, what else? Was Saturday Supercade?
No, they were Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. Two-Man Advantage. Okay. We played with them, I think, in Long Island.
Okay.
Well,
there's this. We have a Facebook group. It's called North Jersey Pop Punk, Northern Jersey Pop Punk '94 to 2002. So I'm checking that right now to see if, because we have all of these old pictures of flyers from back in the day, and people it's a super nostalgic group. So there's all these. It's so fun. People put like, oh, I found all these patches from back then, or here's a bunch of zines from back in the day.
I mean, the thing is like that whole area over there, like, is basically, I mean, the states are so small.
Yeah.
That it's basically like all of California.
Oh, 100%.
So like, I have a hard time like really piecing together who was from where, because it was like, you know, you could cross 3 state lines to play a show that was a 1-day drive. Like,
oh yeah.
So like, you'd have a band, you know, you'd be in one place, but bands would be from all over different states. And so it was always like really, plus I just like, I mean, pre-internet, pre-cell phones, traveling that way, I look at a map now and I'm like, that's where things are? Because like when you're just driving to them and just looking at a Rand McNally road atlas, you don't get a good idea of exactly where you're going.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, just take this freeway until you get there.
They're highways, Adam.
Oh, excuse me. My bad.
They're highways out here. Yeah, actually, I lived in California for a while, so I did get used to saying freeways or the and the number of the road.
Yeah.
The 101.
The 80.
Yeah.
The 80.
Yeah, it's Route 80 here on the East Coast. I don't know where it stops doing that, but do you still go to shows now? Do you still go watch bands play now?
I do, but I have to really, really want to see them.
Yeah.
Very rarely will I just go to just a random show. The last time I really went to a random show, though, this band that I was friends with was playing at this place in the Mission, and I was like, "Oh, I'll go to that show. That'll be fun." I was like trying to like get out of my shell and like go to shows again. And the band that played right after them was Joyce Manor.
Yeah. Oh, they're so good.
And there were only like 60 people at the show.
Wow.
It was like before they were anybody, and I was like, "This band's incredible."
Yeah.
They're playing at the Fillmore this month.
Jesus. Yeah, man. Constant Headache. That song is so good.
So let's see. I went and saw Siren 6 on Friday.
Yeah, you sent me that. You sent me that message. I'm still. That sounds so familiar.
Yeah, so they were ska punk. They started out as Stinkfish. They were from Minneapolis. They were kind of like more informed by like the DC hardcore sound, like Fugazi kind of.
Okay.
They had kind of like breakdowns in their songs that were like they straight up like copped to the fact that one of their breakdowns is basically the breakdown from Waiting Room.
Okay.
And they had this aesthetic of like all dressing in all black and being very, very like kind of mod looking. And I went to that show super psyched. Like I was ready to I'm gonna dance my ass off. And I was like thinking like how the Link 80 reunion had been a couple of years ago. And like when that one had happened at Bottom of the Hill, people went ballistic. Like it was a great show.
Yeah.
And at this show, nobody wanted to dance. No one wanted to dance to the sound of the Siren 6.
Well, a lot of people now go. I mean, they're all like in their late 30s, 40s, or whatever, and everyone.
But fuck that though.
I know, man. Like, but they just want to sit there
dance.
and exactly, man. I mean, they like everyone just goes. They want to hold on to their beer and just kind of nod their head and smile, and no one wants to like feel that energy again, like when they were a kid.
Yeah, I think that's part of what causes the big disconnect for me. Like I feel like if you're excited about something, like go for it. Like
I've also noticed the trend though.
It.
I've noticed that people that I'm friends with who are straight edge, quote unquote straight edge, or just don't drink, or just don't drink. You guys have way more energy.
Probably.
And like because people who drink, I mean, it's so easy to go out to a bar for X amount of hours and just sit there and just drink because it passes time. But when you don't, you're like, okay, well, I still got to, I want to make something of this time. I've got this energy, and so when you show up to places, you're kind of like, yeah, man, like, let's dance, whatever. Everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to spill my beer. I'm going to, I don't really want, I'm like 3 in. I don't really,
it's just hard. Like when the Link 80 show happened, like it was like a bomb went off in there. Like people like just were like, I'm 16 again. And like just went ape shit. Like there were people stage diving.
Wow.
And just like huge circle pit. And, probably the youngest person there was, 30. And it was great.
Well, if you look at all those like Gorilla Biscuit shows and shit that they keep playing, I mean, people are going ape shit, and they're like close to 50.
Yeah. Like a couple of years ago, a bunch of my friends and I got together for a Christmas party. Amoeba Records was throwing like a staff Christmas party, and so they put together a bunch of cover bands, and only one person had to work at Amoeba. So most of the bands were like real kind of like avant, like snooty. Like there was a Cabaret Voltaire cover band, like just like weird like stuff that only record label or record store people like.
Yeah.
We decided we were going to do an Op Ivy cover band. Oh, nice. So the singer was this dude Spencer, who's played in a bunch of Bay Area bands. He was working there. So then my friend Julio, who's now the manager at the Uptown, he and my friend Ryan, who were in a band called Switchblade Riot, they played bass and guitar. I played guitar. Ryan from Blink 80's younger brother Reese played drums, and we learned like 3/4 of the discography of Operation Ivy.
Awesome.
So we went on a Sunday night, like in front of, there was nobody there who did not work at a record store and was not over 30. Like everybody, so the most jaded music snob people on the planet are in this room. We start playing Operation Ivy songs, and the place loses their fucking mind. Like every single person in there is just sinking and like moshing and singing every word. And we are such fans of that music that we're like they recorded all this shit live. There's like mistakes and shit. Yeah. Let's recreate the mistakes when we play. Like there's a part where like they do a hit late in one of the songs. I'm in this business, you built for you. In the situation, I don't know what to do. Like they drag one of the beats.
Yeah.
So we did that when we played it.
Oh,
and
man.
When we did it, people fell the fuck out. Like they were just like, wow, like you fucking played the mistake in the song. Like, I mean,
you did it to detail.
Yeah. Like people, like the most jaded fools were just like gigantic smiles on their faces because everybody fucking loves that shit.
That's so cool.
Fucking Operation Ivy's the shit.
I mean, especially
jaded ass punk.
Well, you're also fucking playing in the Bay Area too, which
totally.
I mean, that's got to add more to it for people. They're like, wow, that's ballsy and fucking great at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, like so there's the big Jawbreaker reunion that's been happening, which has been like the big thing.
Yep.
And everybody was like been like losing their minds, like it's the second coming of Christ, and it's cool. Like I'm down. But like on this, so they're going around they just went around on another round of shows.
Yeah. And
people were complaining about the ticket price.
I heard about this.
Because the tickets were $60.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the band that you guys have been waiting for forever. Like, how much do you think they were going to charge you for a show? Like, $60 is reasonable at this point. There's 3 dudes in the band. They're going to want to have crew. Like, the venue's going to take a cut. like
Yeah,
you can't have it. You can't have it both ways. Like they have to be able to make a living.
I think even Brendan from Lawrence Arms, he even posted about that too. He's like, isn't it kind of ass backwards? I mean, considering when they stopped playing back in the day, it's like because people had like all this shit to say about them. It's like,
right,
Jesus Christ, all you fucking people have been talking about for decades is then getting back together again. It's like you all have jobs. Fucking pay the fucking $60 and then pay like the $10 for the beers you're probably gonna drink and just have $100-$200 a night because it's an investment, man. Like
totally.
no one thinks like that, and it's like then don't fucking go.
Yeah,
like you're not the right person to be there.
I saw Prince. Let's see, 8 years ago, I saw Prince. Tickets for $75. Like that, and that's Prince. He played for like over 2 hours.
Wow, that's
and
it.
Like at the end of the show, like my jaw was just on the floor. Like It was incredible. And like I can't imagine. Like and so like that was Prince. Like and that was $15 more than Jawbreaker.
Yeah,
like,
dude. I think I just saw.
$60 is not that much money.
I just saw there's a like an outdoor amphitheater, a block from where I live in North Carolina, and I think I saw like Kid Cudi played on the he played it, and like the lawn seats were like $125 or something. It's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like I mean, and now people are like going to like festivals, and festivals are costing like $1,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're getting like these crazy VIP packages or like that crazy Fire Festival that was like a big travesty that nobody that like Alkaline Trio pulled out, or maybe no, not Alkaline Trio, Blink-182 pulled out of last minute, like, and people were like getting like mugged and shit by the locals. Like people who paid to go to that like spent like $10,000.
Yeah, that was like, it was all these like super rich kids I thought too that went to that shit. That was like the Ja Rule thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So like the thing is, like, if you want to see a band and you want to pay $5, there's plenty of shows that are still happening for $5.
Yeah, you're not gonna go.
Find the new fucking Jawbreaker. Like, don't expect Jawbreaker to still only charge $5.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's like when I saw Joyce Manor, like that show was probably $5.
Yeah.
Now they play fucking enormous, like 2,000 capacity venues.
And these guys aren't making money off their music, at all. And they have to.
Totally.
The only way they're making money is being at these clubs, and that's their job. It's like you go Monday through Friday, you get a fucking paycheck for your time. It's like these guys deserve the same fucking thing.
Alkaline Trio still makes a good amount of money off of Asian Man releases.
I hope so. Well, I mean, I think Asia Man, smaller labels, not that Asia Man's like tiny, but I mean, they're they're big enough, but they're still small enough where I think their bands can still get a decent sized cut out of it.
Yeah. And Mike does he's contract, 50-50 split.
Yep.
So if you do well, then you end up taking care of the label and he ends up taking care of you.
Yeah. It buys him decades to still do that job.
Totally. And I mean, all the dudes in Trio like love Mike to death.
Yeah.
Like they've said time and time again, like we'll keep those albums on Asian Man forever.
That's awesome.
Like there's no reason to ever take them off of Asian Man. Like Mike treats us so well. He's such a homie. Like just keep the albums there, and like he can collect his half. We get our half on the back end. And they're still putting out music, so they're still making money.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody ever say one bad thing about Mike Park, except for you. But it was more of like a fun, friendly dig.
He's just funny. He likes to. If you become friends with him, he likes to fuck with you.
Yeah, I heard he's a very intriguing guy.
Yeah, Aaron and I from Our Boots, we've both known him since we were teenagers.
Yeah. And
like we used to go see Pickle play. Like Aaron actually did a tour with Skank and Pickle as like a roadie.
Wow.
And like I'm sure Mike acted the same way towards, I don't know, maybe Aaron's a better worker. Maybe he was like, "Oh, Aaron, you're doing such a good job. I'm so glad you're on this tour.
Here's $12."
yeah, here's $12. You're great."
Yeah,
but
I saw. Yeah.
So the Our Boots album that we put on Asian Man, when it broke even, like Mike was like, "It's never going to break even," and we're like, "We'll make sure it breaks even. If it breaks even, you have to take us to Sizzler." And it broke even, and so he had to take us to Sizzler. And so we bought I think we got like an all you can eat or something. And he had to pay for it, and it was like $54. And he was so mad. It's like $54. And like Aaron and I we like hired a photographer for the day to like come take pictures of this whole extravaganza.
No
And
kidding.
we're like just
really?
piling up our plates with, yeah, it was just like the most ridiculous thing we could do. Like, and it was so funny to like, in this day and age, like celebrate breaking even on an album. Like that's such like a ridiculous premise.
That's hilarious. And
But like,
especially
I
with
mean,
the fucking
but there are
Sizzler.
so many albums that come out that people don't recoup on.
Oh yeah.
So it was so funny to us to like, you know, this album that like by the time it came out, we were pretty burned out on, and that is not representative of what we sound like now. And was actually, you know, if we'd really thought about it, probably wouldn't have put out on Asian Man. But then, you know, it did put it out.
Yeah, fuck it. You have the connection, man. Like, why not?
And then Mike had to take us out to eat. Recently, Mike closed the books on that album.
Oh, really?
He was like, okay, you guys have earned $100 in the black on this album. I'll throw another like $20 on the top of this, and then I'm closing the books on it. Like, I don't want to think about it again. It's like, that's fine, dude.
That's amazing. So now it's like what is it when something's out of print and someone finds it? It's like a collectible, like collector's item now.
Yeah,
There's value in
I
it
just
now.
melt that shit down.
There's value
or
in
something.
It. Yeah, I saw.
There's a cool picture on the label of it of me in high school. That's like the best thing about the album.
Is it the one with like you with this long black like devil lock?
There's a picture of me with like I just have kind of like long kind of stoner looking hair, and I'm really skinny, and I'm wearing a shirt of this local band from San Jose called 187 Calm, and I think I'm wearing like an army jacket. And it's like, that's how my wife remembers me because she knew me in high school.
Okay.
And like, I was like her Jordan Catalano from My So-Called Life. She's like, oh yeah, that's the guy for me.
Wait, this isn't the picture with like you with the black dreadlocks that's on your Facebook page?
Oh, no, it's a different one.
Okay.
But yes, that's how I looked more like during Link 80. For like the first half of Link 80, I had dreadlocks. And then for the first half of Dessa, I had dreadlocks.
Amazing.
Which is just something you can't do now in 2018. Like a white kid cannot have dreadlocks now.
No, unless
without
you're like...
just like cultural appropriation and all that shit. I was just trying to look like I was in Ministry or something.
Yeah.
I was just trying to look like a weird, like, industrial rock dude.
Yeah, you definitely looked like you were 9 Inch Nails in that, or like Ministry.
Yeah, that was what I was going for.
Yeah.
I was trying to look like 9 Inch Nails and like the Head Like a Hole video.
Yeah, it's like a fucking Mad Max villain.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. That's all I was going for.
I mean, you nailed it. So.
Yeah.
All right, man.
So that show in Denver. Wait, one more.
Oh
thing.
yeah, it's going.
I know we were almost at.
I honestly like. I don't even care. This is Friday, so I checked out and I enjoyed it way much more than what I do.
Okay,
like,
so the show in Denver that we played
was
in like a weird square kind of dance hall type room.
Well, like you and I, like our bands.
Yes, it was me, you, or Laymeyer, Link 80, Lawrence Arms,
the band with the saxophone, Johnny,
and the Wonder Years.
Yeah, but there was also that other band that's from Chicago.
Johnny Sacco.
Did
they play?
No, it was that. It was shit. Brennan just said the name the other day in the interview.
I know who you're talking about.
Sweep Like Johnny.
What were they called? Sweep Like Johnny.
Sweep Like
Did
Johnny.
They became something else?
That I don't know.
Smoke or Fire, I think they changed the name to. Maybe some of the guys started another thing.
Nope.
Anyhow, yeah, Sweep Like Johnny played. I remember we didn't have a very good set. The one thing I remember about our set is I like wanted to get really aggressive with the audience. And we played with this band called the Goonies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember them?
Groovy Ghoulies or the Goonies?
No, the Goonies, like the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So there were all these bands from like I think the New Hampshire area. There was like Kicked in the Head, the Goonies, and $5. They were these like kind of weirdo bands from up there. Goonies was like started out as like a ska punk band and like morphed into like a weird, like kind of like the early like screamo like City of Caterpillar Orchid type stuff. Like they got like really like heady and like noisy, and I think one of their horn players started just playing like a synthesizer that just made noise.
Okay.
So we played one show and they were like a ska punk band, and then we played another show years later and they were like this weird band. And I remember the bass player having issues with his bass and just like running into the audience and like knocking a bunch of people over with his bass and then like running back. And some part of me thought that was really cool. And so I tried to do that at this Denver show.
Uh-huh.
And I like fell on my ass like a fucking dummy.
I think I do remember that, actually.
Yeah, it's not my best moment. That was the big thing I remember about that show. And I remember hanging out with Lawrence Arms in the parking lot.
Yep. They were probably a few beers in by that point.
Oh yeah, we have some video footage of that somewhere, and they're pretty wasted.
Yeah, we would show up to places with them on that tour. I remember we showed up in like Buffalo, and it was 11 in the morning, and they like went to a convenience store and got like a 30 pack and just started drinking them. And we didn't play until like 6 or 7, I think, that night, maybe. Mm-hmm. Or no, that was probably too early. I was like, holy fucking shit, dude! These guys can just go.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
They drank a lot.
Yeah. Kurtz actually doesn't drink anymore. I saw him a couple years ago.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, I was in Portland living out there for a couple months, and he was in the Pearl District, and we met up for coffee. He's like thin as hell. We actually ended up bumping into each other at a gym. I was like at LA Fitness or something while I was out there, and I was like, what the fuck? He's like, what are you doing here? And then we're like, yeah, we should get coffee. So we ended up doing. He's like, yeah, I quit drinking and just live with my girlfriend. I'm working for this company. I'm like, wow, that's totally upside down from back in the day.
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah.
And then who was the drummer in Lawrence Arms?
Neil.
I'm blanking on it. Neil. So then Neil played in. Was he in Smoking Popes for a second?
I think he's still in Smoking Popes.
No, Flumley's back in.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
they're back to the original lineup.
He filled in Smoking Popes for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Brendan's is he bartending still?
Brendan actually works for the Onion now.
Oh, okay. Because I know he was doing Nihilist Arby's.
He's still doing that.
Snowballed into the Onion.
That's exactly. I asked him that because his interview was like 2 before yours, and I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm literally on a break right now from a meeting at the office. I'm working for the Onion." I'm like, "Wow." I go, "Did the Nihilist Arby's thing have anything to do with that?" He's like, "Yeah, it definitely got me on the radar." And so now he writes all these very funny commentary posts. Apparently, he's like, "Yeah, it's awesome, but it's also stressful because you have to be funny." And there's some stress level to that, to just not casually be funny. It's like this, you have a deadline.
You're on a deadline to be funny.
Exactly.
You gotta do it. You gotta deliver the goods.
Yeah. But
one of my first memories of Brendan, he came out to a show we played at Fireside Bowl, and I think it was maybe pre-Lawrence Arms, post Slapstick, and he was fucking hammered, and he had just gotten a tattoo on his wrist that's like a banner that says like Rebirth. Mm-hmm. And he was like, and for some reason he like just like locked in with me and like had to like describe everything that was happening in his life, and like showed me like this tattoo that was like a tattoo that he'd had with him and his ex, and then his ex had dumped him, but this new rebirth tattoo was what it was all about, and like starting over. And I was just like looking, and like I'd never been around fucking like really drunk people before. Uh-huh. I was just like, I don't know what the fuck to do right now. like one, I don't know why this dude has decided that I'm like his best friend right now. And 2, like he's getting really heavy with me.
I think this was the time where the drummer from Alkaline Trio shit in the box and sent it to the bass player from Jets Brazil.
That was probably around that time. I don't think he sent it to the drummer from Jets Brazil. He sent it to Heather Honora, I think.
No, I think it was. No, it could be. I mean, again, this is like years, but I remember asking Brendan about this on that tour, and I said, "Is it true that this happened?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "What happened was, like, the guy from I think it was the bassist from Jets Brazil or something. He ended up dating Glenn. That was the drummer. It's like he dated his ex-fiance or something. So Glenn went out and like fucked Brendan's ex-fiance or girlfriend, and then someone else, and then shit in a box and sent it to this guy. Again, I could totally be like throwing this off, but I think I'm pretty.
I mean, that sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah, and then I think after he did that, that's when Matt was.
All I know is dude definitely shit in a box and definitely mailed it to somebody, and that definitely was why he was out of the band.
Yep. Yeah, Matt was like, no. So I was really surprised when they put out the remaster of God Damn It with that DVD, and Glenn's part of it being interviewed. So hopefully at that point they had said like, yeah.
I think they've since tied it. Like, I mean, he still gets royalties. Off all those early Alkaline Trio records.
Well, yeah, because Radio's
they didn't like cut him out or anything.
Well, Radio's about Glenn. That's about him.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I never
I
put that
swear it's
together.
about him. Because I guess when they were recording the album, he was like, "It's really uncomfortable playing these fucking songs, especially that one, because I know it's about me."
Wow.
Yeah, that's got to be insane.
That's crazy. Yeah, the first time I saw Trio was with ME30 and the Dismemberment Plan
Oh, wow.
in New Orleans. And fucking Trio were so wasted that Matt was changing every other lyric to Chris Diebold's name
Okay.
from ME30.
Yeah.
So like he just kept throwing Chris into the songs. Like every single, it was hilarious. There weren't that many people there, so it was like, I mean, it was like maybe 100 people.
Oh, wow.
So it was like a really, really intimate show.
Yeah,
we just kept like hammering on Diebold.
Yeah, we played with them in front of like 20 people at a college, and we're like right when Goddamn It had just been pressed, and I think they were touring with sample CDs of it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, these guys are. I was like, this is pretty fucking good, and then it was just like an explosion, and then fucking Private Eye comes out on From Here to Infirmary, and it's like, so like so the struggle continues. Is that just basically like the struggle with Mike in like a backhanded way?
No, it was like it was like kind of just like, you know, all the stuff that we'd gone up against of like, you know, having somebody pass away, having, you know, the whole first tour that I did, like go through 3 bands, put ourselves into debt, just like constantly like grinding on this band and like not really feeling like we were getting anywhere, but just, you know, continuing forward. So we were in like a Burger King. And I think like Adam Pereira was like, yeah, we should just call it like The Struggle Continues. Like it'll sound like a Wu-Tang album or something. I mean, we were really like informed by like kind of like the rap thing. Like we thought about sending a demo to Master P's label, No Limit Records.
Yep.
Seeing if we could be the first punk band on No Limit.
That's awesome.
The only other label that really showed interest. Well, that's not totally true. But Victory. That guy Tony came out to see us in Chicago, and we were on tour with Voodoo Glow Skulls, and I think Dr. No played the show too. Mm-hmm. And we crushed on that show. Like everyone was there to see us. We like sold a stupid amount of merch, and like Tony was like, "Yeah, like let's talk. I want to sign you guys." And so we're like, "Okay." So like he like emailed Aaron, our trumpet player, and was like, "What do you guys need?" And we sent him back like a really modest thing, like, well, this much for like tour support and this much for recording. That'd be cool. And he wrote back like a 1-line thing that was like, the best-selling album on my label didn't cost more than $700 to record, and what the fuck is tour support?
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, well, what do you want to offer us? And he like didn't write anything back. And then like months later, he sent the same email starting the conversation over again, like, hey, so what do you guys need?
Wow.
We just never responded after that.
Yeah, I've never heard any really good stories come from people.
No, I'm really glad that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then Big D had a label for a second.
Yeah.
Big D and the Kids Table. They had something called like Fork in Hand Records. Mm-hmm. And they actually wrote up like a really nice proposal, like being like, hey, if you put out an album, here's what we could offer. And we totally just shined it on, which was fucking stupid. We probably should have put out something with them.
I thought that Big D and the Kids Table was also on 2-Hep Records. Am I right?
They had their own imprint for a second, though. Their own like little indie label.
Okay.
And they like took it pretty seriously.
Oh, they're in Springman. Die One Dummy.
And then they did, yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right, man. Well, I am going to wrap this up because I have a little dog that's probably going to.
Yeah, I got to go pick up my kid too.
No, this is great, but all right, this is the way I end every podcast episode, and then I'll have you plug whatever you'd like afterwards, even though I'm sure it's probably Narboots or your library sessions. What scene ethics do you still hold on to this day?
I don't know. Do everything yourself. Do things yourself. I have a really hard time asking other people for help because I feel like I should just do it myself.
Yeah.
Put things together myself. And just being a part of things. Like, you know, if you don't like something, you know, make your own. Like there's no reason to just like, that's probably my least favorite thing about the internet is comments.
Oh,
I feel like we should just get rid of comments.
I totally
because
agree.
It's just people who like don't do shit, just like having an immediate reaction to something, and it's almost always colored negatively. Like, just do your own fucking thing. Like, and I'm still straight edge at 41, which is absurd.
That's a pretty good ethic, I'd say.
Yeah.
All right. What would you like to plug? What would you like to tell the people to go check out?
Check out Narboots. You can find us all over the internet. Pretty much any Google search for Narboots will pull us up. You can go to weareallnarboots at
Starts with a G.
.com. What's that?
Starts with a G.
GNARBOOTS. That's the main thing I've been doing. xadamdx.com. You can see art that I've been working on. I need to update that though. What else? I stick out like a sore thumb. I'm all over the Bay Area all the time. I'm really tall. I have a beard, long hair now. I look kind of like Jesus. I'm actually going to enter the Hunky Jesus competition probably next year. So hopefully I'll win because I'm getting pretty hunky. I've been lifting weights and eating right. Everybody in Link 80 still gets along pretty well. So there's that. We'll probably never play another show again. So there's that. I'd really like to record a ska punk EP of something else. I'd like to be able to like have a project where I could just play ska punk, but I don't want to have to practice. So I got to figure that out. I got to come to terms with that. Figure out if I'm actually going to do that or not. I've written a couple little songs. I haven't done anything with them. So
cool, man.
We'll see. Maybe that'll happen. Shout out to Brent Lawrence Friedman. He's the man. Do you know that guy?
No.
He like books a bunch of ska bands. He plays drums in We Are the Union. He's a all-around good dude. Booking agent, makes buttons, likes ska, vegan, straight edge, fun guy. Also, Ska Tune Network. Look up Ska Tune Network if you want to see Jeremy from We Are the Union cover different songs as ska songs. He wrote a straight edge hardcore ska song, and he name checks me in it.
Nice. Anything else?
That's nice. That's it. I think that's it.